There's a lot of talk about entrepreneurship, especially with Gary Vee and Alex Hormozi and all these people, and I think it's made this resurgence, but I think so few people are actually well suited to be entrepreneurs. It's really hard, and in this video, I want to talk about what an entrepreneurial mindset looks like, why it's not for everybody, and 3 things that I wish I knew before jumping in. Okay, so starting from the beginning, most people have heard the statistic that 90% of startups fail, right? Like, if you're listening to this and you're on my channel, you've probably heard that stat before. I know I had heard that working in startups in New York and across the United States, working at smaller bootstrap startups and VC-backed startups. I'd always heard that stat, so I knew the odds weren't good. But another interesting stat is that 1 in 4 businesses, so 25%, only 25% will make it 15 years on. So the majority, 75% of businesses will fail sometime between year 1 and year 15. And then the last stat I want to share with you guys is that the average income of a small business owner was approximately $50,000 in 2023. So not super high, right? So it's like you're working 90 hours a week to make 50 grand, kind of seems insane. And then Alex Hormozi had an interesting one recently. I remember I was watching one of his videos and he said something to the effect of like 80 or 90% of businesses are stuck underneath the $250,000 revenue point. So the vast majority of small, medium business, at least in the United States, is quite underperforming compared to what it can do. And so I want to talk about, number one, I want to pull back the curtain on that, right? And see that it's not all rainbows and butterflies. And I don't think that being an entrepreneur is like for everybody. It's a really hard life. You're taking a path that's less traveled. You have people in your family that are going to tell you you're crazy for doing something that doesn't make sense when you could just go get a 9-to-5, get a pension, have a 401k, all this stuff, right? And so be prepared for all that. But other than it being insanely hard, there's 3 elements that I wanted to share with you guys that were kind of surprising to me. So number 1, this is like, I heard this from Myron Golden, I can't get it out of my head because I've observed it time and time again to be true, which is that disruption follows intention. What does that mean? That means as soon as you intend to do something, as soon as you set your mind to do something, you're gonna have disruption. Like as soon as you intend to start that business, and it's the same thing that Seth Godin talks about in the book The Dip, right? Everyone talks about this. It's the startup dip or the startup trough, where you start up positive and then it kind of dips down, right? And so it's like disruption follows intention. But what does that look like in life? Again, I don't share a ton of personal details usually, but for me, I'm in this coaching practice, right? And I'm starting to set up this coaching business. And I'm finally starting to get leads coming in. I'm working with people and like all of a sudden I'm having this like focus block and I'm losing focus. I'm having a hard time being creative. I'm having a hard time coming up with scripts for videos. I'm having challenges in figuring out how to break through some of these barriers in terms of like getting cold DM outreach. And what I realized for me is having a business in 2016, 2017, 2018, that was my own company that was bootstrapped. I co-founded that with 3 other people, and ultimately the company failed. I was the CEO leading that company, and it was my responsibility to basically look after sales and marketing, right? And so that on me, like as a whole, that company failed because of me. And it's frustrating for me on many levels because it's like I've taken almost 3 years away from those people's lives that I can't give them back. And so now I'm in this position where I'm relying on myself and I'm facing this demon from the past, right? And so that is, my intention is starting this coaching practice. That is the disruption. I also have a health thing with a family member that's like got dementia, and I've talked about this before. This is why I'm so big on brain health. But it's like all this stuff is happening with this family member, and there's like so much I wish I could do, but financially I'm not in a position where I can invest in taking care of that person and also start this business and do that at the same time. Like it's just too much. And so I'm like, it feels really hard to be handcuffed to trying to make this business work at 150% and then also watching someone suffer. It's like very painful. And then also in my spiritual relationship, I'm like with God, I'm like just having all of these like deep conversations with him on things I'm battling through. And so some of those may look similar for you, but I guarantee you, once you set your intention to start something, you will have disruption. Disruption follows intention. It always does. And so I would caution you to be ready for that. And that way you're aware when the speed bumps come, when the police are there clocking you doing 90 and a 65, like you're ready for it. Like you're ready to go. It doesn't make it easier, but you're ready and you know you're in the right place. that was number one. Disruption follows intention. Number two is lowering your resistance. I've talked about this quite frequently. So lowering your resistance, this could be things like, anytime I hear someone say, I already knew that, or I recently heard a story of a friend who went to a coach. She got a coach, right? She's like a business coach. And she didn't actually buy it. She was working for a VC-backed company, and the venture capital firm that funded her startup wanted to help. And so what they did was they sponsored a coach for her, right, to help her get through some of the things she was working with. And at the end of this 6-month or whatever 4-month engagement, I remember hearing something to the effect that her response was, I already knew all that stuff. I didn't get anything out of that. And I think that so well sums up what it looks like when someone's being resistant. It's when, like for me right now, like I don't feel like doing sales DMs, like as if I have some ego to protect because I don't have a successful coaching practice off the ground anyway. So why does it matter if I'm I'm DMing someone in, like on Instagram or Facebook or LinkedIn or whatever? Like it shouldn't even matter. Like it can't get worse from here, right? It can only go up. So it could also look like I'll hear people say, oh, that's so stupid. I can't believe you spent that much money on a course. Or like, oh yeah, that book is whatever. Like reading books is great, but like whatever. They might poo-poo that. They might poo-poo audiobooks, right? Oh, I get so much more value out of reading. Well, that doesn't happen for me. Like I like to listen to audiobooks at the gym. But the phrase is so dangerous is like, I already know that. And what lies behind what you think you already know is like a whole nother level. And so the challenge with this that I have not talked about before in lowering your resistance is that you can lower it too much. And so there's a balance, right? I talked about things being a spectrum. It's the same with lowering resistance. You don't want to let everything and anything in. You want to have an open mind, but there are some things like that you need to have a hard and fast line on. You cannot, have your focus go everywhere. And so it is on a spectrum, but lowering your resistance is absolutely critical. Number one was disruption follows intention. 2 is lowering your resistance. The last one is, really simply put, I am the problem. And even more simply put, if it's your problem, it's your responsibility. So I have one quote, and please, if I die, put this on my tombstone, which is, the difference between where you are and where you want to be is always you. The difference between where my business is, and where I want it to be is me. There's nobody else that's going to fix that. I can hire a coach. They can do all this stuff. They can say it's done for you, but I'm the one that's got to implement the new system. I'm the one that's got to track the metrics. I'm the one that's got to figure out how, okay, now there's more money coming in. I need to make sure that it's not going out too fast. I'm the one that has to do the work to make the thing work. So yeah, that to me, that's the most powerful quote. I know it's mine, so of course I like it, but the difference between where you are and where you want to be is always you. And I think that's why personal development is so important. It's not even about this business stuff and making money and whatever. It's more about becoming the best version of yourself. And I don't think that just stops with knowledge or whatever. You hear me talk about the gym and nutrition and all these other things. I think that's why I talk about the spiritual part too. How can you be spiritually fit but then physically obese? How can you be financially obese but physically fit? I think all areas of your life you should be seeking to max out, as Ed Milet might say. So again, all 3 are disruption follows intention. Lowering resistance is absolutely critical. And the difference between where you are and where you want to be is you. Said differently, it's taking radical responsibility and saying, I'm the problem. I hope these 3 help you, and I'll see you guys in the next one.